Okay, guys, I want to cover this. I have shared this on my community tab. It's a short story, a minute and almost 2 minutes, from Fox News, because Trump is issuing yet another warning to Iran after Iran has done some rocket attacks. You guys know there's been a conflict going on. I've mentioned several times over the last 2 months of different things that, when I see them, to me immediately remind me of Daniel 8. I want to show you something in Daniel 8 and Daniel 7 and Daniel 9, something very important. And I think it will blow the other people's argument out of the water, because pretty much universally nobody is seeing what Daniel 8 is saying. I can't find anybody talking about this at all. Anybody. So far, I'm the only person that I know of that sees what Daniel 8 is saying. And I've had a lot of people tell me Daniel 8 already happened. I want to point something out to you. Now, keep in mind, Daniel was given that prophecy and he was told, seal this book up because this is a vision for the time of the end. That wasn't referring to that one chapter. It was referring to the whole book. And it's only been about the last 60 years that people have really started to understand Daniel, and that Daniel has opened up to the world, to people who are watching it. That any of it has made sense. Mainly it was after Israel became a nation again that it started to make sense. Well, there's no reason to believe why more of it wouldn't open up the closer we get to the end. So, excuse me. So if you haven't watched this 2-minute video, go watch it. They've got subs over there right now with Tomahawk missiles. Everything they're talking about none of it involves a ground assault. Everything that they're talking about is they're going to go get Iran with an airstrike. And if you've watched my videos on Daniel 7 or Daniel 8 and you've read Daniel 8, you know exactly what that's referring to. I want to point some interesting details out here, why I think that that's talking about this that's happening right now. So let's go over to the scripture. We're going to read Daniel 8 first, then we're going to read Daniel 7 and Daniel 9. Because what I got people telling me on Daniel 8 is that Daniel 8 happened 2,500 years ago. This involves somebody completely different. But there's some interesting details here that make me think otherwise. So in the third year, we're in Daniel 8:1, in the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me. To me, Daniel, after the one that appeared to me the first time. That would be Daniel 7. That's the first vision. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head while on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, telling the main facts. That's Daniel 7:1. Daniel 8:1, after the one that appeared to me the first time. So right away, in verse 1 of Daniel 7 and Daniel 8, we get a chronology of these visions. This is going to make sense here in a minute. Now, Daniel 9, in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the lineage of the Medes, who was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the books the number of the years specified by the word of the Lord through Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. Here we have a third vision. But in this third vision, what happens? Jeremiah starts to make sense. Right away, when you see that, it's like, I need to go to Jeremiah. You need to compare what they've wrote. Right now, we're seeing things from Jeremiah and Daniel active in the world today. Let's go back to Daniel 8. Because this is a very interesting vision that he's had. I saw in the vision, Daniel 8:2, and it so happened while I was looking that I was in Shushan, the citadel, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in the vision that I was by the river Ulai. In the other videos, I've done several other videos on this, I show you literally where this is. It's in Iran. Literally in Iran. Verse 3, then I lifted my eyes and saw, and there standing beside the river was a ram which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. These are leaders. This is referring to leaders. The horns are referring to leaders. Now watch this. Something interesting comes out of this. I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward. Westward towards who? Turkey. Look on a map. Northward towards who? Russia. Southward towards who? Israel. So that no animal could withstand him. No animal? That would be representations of countries. Could withstand him, nor was there any that could deliver from his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, suddenly a male goat came from the west across the surface of the whole earth without touching the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. I think this goat is America. Notice he came across the surface of the whole earth without touching the ground. That's an airstrike. Look, this isn't talking about a literal goat. This is a prophecy. He came across the surface of the whole earth without touching the ground. That is an airstrike. And he had a notable horn between his eyes. You know what another word for a horn is? It's our president's last name. That's another word for a horn. Then he came, verse 6, I'm just saying, guys. Then he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing beside the river, and ran at him with furious power. And I saw him confronting the ram. He was moved with rage against him. Have you seen the state of things right now? Trump's not too happy with a lot of stuff that's going on. And with what's happening right now with Iran. Moved with rage. Attacked the ram and broke his two horns, brought their leaders down. There was no power in the ram to withstand him, but he cast him down to the ground and trampled him, and there was no one that could deliver the ram from his hand. Why would that be? Because that goat is the greatest power in the world right now. Therefore, the male goat grew very great. But when he became strong, so he got greater, got stronger, but when he became strong, the large horn was broken. And in place of it, 4 notable ones came up toward the 4 winds of heaven. That would seem to indicate that that nation broke apart. Now, we have an interpretation of this. We're just reading through this. And out of one of them came a little horn which grew exceedingly great towards the south, towards the east, and towards the glorious land. That would be Israel. And it grew up to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars of the ground and trampled them. Who does that sound like? Remember Revelation chapter 12? He even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifices were taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. When did that happen? Oh, it hasn't yet. Daily sacrifices were taken away. That would be the tribulation, wouldn't it? The Antichrist? We have an interpretation of this. Just wait. Because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices. And he cast truth down to the ground. He did all this and prospered. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said, to that certain one who was speaking, how long will the vision be concerning the daily sacrifices and the transgression of desolation, the giving of both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled under foot? He's directly referencing to the book of Revelation. Daniel 8:14, and he said to me, for 2,300 days, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. Now, I did the math on that. It's 6.4 years. So about 9 months in to the tribulation is when all this is going to take place. And then the sanctuary is cleansed when Jesus returns. So you're looking at a description of the 7-year tribulation right here. The first 9 months is probably going to be the seals. I'm just saying, that's what this is reading out to me. Watch, we've got a lot to cover here. Watch this. The interpretation of the vision. Daniel 8:15. Then it happened when I, Daniel, had seen the vision and was seeking the meaning, and suddenly there stood before me one having the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulai, who called and said, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. Now, when I've done the other videos that I did on this, I had emails and comments of people telling me, I don't know what I'm talking about. This has already happened, okay? I get that. Prove it. Oh, hold on just a second, guys. Hello? Oh, that was my wife. She just called me because she's at Walmart. Me and my mother-in-law were just there not about 30, 45 minutes ago. And there were no lines. She said there's lines almost to the back of the store now. So I hate stores. Hate shopping. Don't like it. Okay, back to what we were talking about. So what the people were telling me that were contacting me, they were like, you don't know what you're talking about. This has already happened. I mean, how has that already happened? They said it's already happened. And it happened 2,500 years ago. I don't understand what you're talking about. So one guy actually took the time to explain it to me, and I was like, how is that possible? He goes, that's just what people interpret it. I was like, okay, when you read it, what does that tell you? Does that what it says to you? Or do you read it trying to find what the real interpretation is? Because I told him, I said, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because the very next verse, Daniel 8:17, says, so he came near where I stood, and where he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. But he said to me, understand, son of man, that the vision refers to the time of the end. Was the end 2,500 years ago? No. That would be preterism. So how can they say that this has already happened? We haven't even gone through the tribulation yet. Now you're going to understand more when we cover chapter 7 and chapter 9, because all three of these come together. I read you the first verse of each one, and you see how these are consecutive visions that he's had. Well, it wouldn't indicate that one vision was for one time and one vision was for another time, and then another vision was for another time when they're consecutive. And what you're going to see when we cover the other two chapters is that all three of them talk about the same person. Daniel 8:18. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep with my face to the ground. But he touched me and stood me up. And he said, look, I am making known to you what shall happen in the latter time of the indignation. For at the appointed time the end shall be. Well, that wasn't 2,500 years ago. That wasn't in 553 BC. That wasn't in 1 AD. None of that happened. None of this has happened. Verse 20, the ram which you saw having the two horns, they are the kings of Media and Persia. Simple Google searches and you can prove what all this is. That's Iran and Syria and Turkey. And the male goat is the kingdom of Greece. The large horn that is between its eyes is the first king. Now, in those other videos, I showed you guys what this stuff is. In the King James, Daniel 8:21 is, it doesn't say Greece, it says Grecia. Let's go take a look. Daniel 8:21. We're going to go in the King James Plus and look at the Greek. Daniel 8:21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So Grecia, that's Hebrew, Havan, or Yavan, probably from the same as H3196. Effervescing, that is hot and active. Havan, the name of a son of Joktan, and of the race Ionians, that is Greeks, and I did another video where I dug deep into all that. That is, Greeks descended from him with their territory, also of a place in Arabia. So Havan is a place in Arabia, but notice it says that is the Ionians, that is Greeks, descended from him. So Grecia, basically, and in another previous video I dug deeper, it's Grecian territory. It's their kingdom. Back during the Ottoman Empire, they covered a whole lot of places, and America, North America, was part of that integrated territory, even though they didn't have to overthrow anybody. Now, look at our architecture. Architecture, all of our architecture, especially in any place where Washington is concerned, is all Greco-Roman architecture. Our governmental system is Greco-Roman government systems. Our Republican Democratic system is Greco-Roman. Our monetary system is Greco-Roman. Everything that we do is all Greco-Roman. The calendars that we use, the days of the week, everything is all from Greco-Roman time frame. That would put us under the category of Grecia. Now the other thing is first king. First, the Greek or the Hebrew word is Rishon. Excuse me. From H7221, first, in place, time or rank. So he's literally the first king. As an adjective or a noun, ancestor. That were before time beginning, eldest, first, forefather, most, former thing of old time past. You guys know who the matriarch of the Trump family is? Her name is Christina Christ. Did that in a video, I think, last year. Her name is Christina Christ. There's a lot of history that goes back and a lot of things that connect with Trump. A lot. What he was born under, his age, a whole lot of stuff. There's a lot more going on here than what we think, and a lot more that ties to this than what we realize. And so far that I've been able to find, I'm the only one that's realized this. I can't find anybody that sees this. Anybody. I wish I could. I'd love to compare notes with them. Now, the Hebrew word for king in this verse, in Daniel 8:21, is melech. A king, royal. You do a Google search on Trump as the first king, you see thousands upon thousands of search results of people calling him the first king of America. America's never had a king. Now, I had some people, I mentioned that before, and I had some people tell me, oh, America had a king. It was the British Empire that was a king. Yeah, but America wasn't America at that time. America was British territory. It wasn't. America didn't even exist. America as a nation has never had a king. It's the only nation in the world that has never had a king. Simple Google searches can show you this. So this first king thing really ties close to what we're looking at here. All right. So Daniel 8:21, and the male goat is the kingdom of Greece. The large horn that is between its eyes is the first king. But you can't say that's actually Greece, because if you go look at Greece military today, they ain't nothing. Greece as a nation is nothing. This is not them. It can't be them. Daniel 8:22, as for the broken horn and the four that stood up in his place, 4 kingdoms shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power. Greece doesn't have 4 kingdoms. Who is that talking about? Oh wait, it's a future event. Daniel 8:23, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, a king shall arise, having fierce features, who understands sinister schemes. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He shall destroy fearfully, and shall prosper and thrive. He shall destroy the mighty, and also the holy people. Through his cunning he shall cause deceit to prosper under his rule, and he shall exalt himself in his heart. He shall destroy many in their prosperity. He shall even rise against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without human means. Who's that talking about? Now, this vision was so terrifying, it freaked Daniel out. Verses 26 and 27, Daniel was sick. Sick. And he was astonished by the vision. Gave him great fear. Now, what it says in Daniel 8:26, again, this will be the 3rd time in this chapter that it's mentioned, and the vision of the evenings and the mornings, which was told, is true. Therefore, seal up the vision, for it refers to many days in the future. Daniel, you're not supposed to know what this means. He didn't know what America, what any of that stuff was. You're not supposed to know what this means, Daniel. But it's coming. Now, why am I pointing this out? Well, let's go back to Daniel 7. Daniel 7 is one of the first visions. So we covered the first one. He had this vision, and he wrote it down. Daniel 7:2, Daniel spoke, saying, I saw in my night vision, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. And the 4 great beasts which came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it. What does that sound like to you? Obviously, these animals are referring to kingdoms. What does that sound like to you? Wings of the eagle, America. Lion, Britain. The EU, the old EU is collapsing and a new one is rising. Ironically, it's the old Roman Empire coming back together, which is surprising. Well, they're going to stand up as a world power when the other one goes away, when America ceases. It's all playing out exactly the way the Bible says. Verse 5, and suddenly another beast, a second like a bear. It was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and they said, thus to it, arise, devour much flesh. Who gets the bear? Russia. After this I looked, and there was another like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. This is talking about multiple nations coming together. It's a coalition. That leopard, that's the United Emirates. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast. dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong, had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. That's the great dragon. That's the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. That's the coalition of nations. Because in Revelation, it gives the interpretation. Verse 8, I was considering the horns, and there was another horn. Remember in Daniel 8, the horns we mentioned? Think about what we're reading here and what we just read. There was another horn, a little one, coming up from among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. Remember what it says in the book of Revelation about the Antichrist? Going to speak pompous words against the Most High? This is all connected, every bit of it. I read this, and then I read in Daniel 8, and I'm like, yeah, there it is. It's the same vision. He's just seeing it from different angles. Now we have the Ancient of Days reigns, the Son of Man is given dominion. This is all goes back to Revelation chapter 5, if you read these verses. Covered this in multiple videos. Now Daniel's vision is interpreted. Daniel 7:15, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit within my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near to one of those that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. Those great beasts, which are 4 kings which arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Who's that? Raptured church. Then I wished to know the truth about the 4th beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and its nails of bronze, which devoured, broke in pieces, and trampled the residue with its feet, and the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn which came up, before which fell 3 fell. Remember what Daniel 8 said? People universally say Daniel 7 is referring to the tribulation. How can you say Daniel 7 is referring to the tribulation and Daniel 8 is referring to 2,500 years ago when they're both talking about the same thing? One horn came up and pushed out 3. Hello? We just read it in Daniel 8. Just read it. So obviously Daniel 8 doesn't apply to a time in the past. It applies to now. Namely, that horn which had eyes, had a mouth which spoke pompous words, whose appearance was greater than his fellows. I was watching, and the same horn was making war against the saints and prevailing against them until the Ancient of Days came, and a judgment was made in favor of the saints of the Most High, and the time came for the saints to possess the kingdom. You know what this tells me? We have persecution coming. It's happening right now, actually, but there's more coming, and then we're going to get delivered. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be a 4th kingdom on the earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it in pieces. The 10 horns are 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom, and another shall rise after them. He shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings. We see this mentioned multiple times, and when we go to chapter 8, we see a more specific mention of it. See, the Bible proves the Bible. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the saints of the Most High, and shall intend to change times and law. Then the saints shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. Whose saints are these? Tribulation saints. Be given into their hand for 3.5 years. Verse 26, but the court shall be seated, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it forever. That was in the green highlighted verses. Then the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. This is the end of the account. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly troubled me, and my countenance changed, but I kept the matter in my heart. Now, what we just read, does that not sound like a general description of what we read in chapter 8? Let's see. Daniel 8:8. Therefore the male grew great, but when he came strong, the large horn was broken, and in place of it 4 notable ones came up toward the 4 winds of heaven, and out of one of them came a little horn which grew exceedingly great towards the south, north, east, and towards a glorious land. It grew up to the host of heaven, cast down some of the host and some of the stars to the ground, and trampled them. He even exalted himself as high as a prince of hosts, and by him the daily sacrifices were taken. We're seeing a more elaborate description of what we just read in Daniel 7. And we go down here, Daniel 8:22. As for the broken horn and the four that stood in its place, four kingdoms shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, a king shall arise having fierce features, who understands sinister schemes. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He shall destroy fearfully and shall prosper and thrive. He shall destroy the mighty and also the people. There's one part in particular I'm looking for. Where he took down the other three. So when I read this, I'm seeing the same thing, just described differently. It's talking about the same thing. Now let's go to Daniel 9. Daniel's prayer for his people. And he has his prayer up here, but if you scroll down through the prayer, you have the 70 weeks. Daniel 9:24, 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sin, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublesome times. And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself, and for the people of the prince who is to come, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood, until the end of the war desolations are determined. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. So we know that week is years, right? But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. These 3 chapters go together. These 3 chapters describe what's going to happen during the tribulation. It's clear. You're just seeing different descriptions and different words being used and different details being given. You take these 3 and take like a deck of cards, how you shuffle a deck and combine the cards together. You do that with these 3 chapters, you get a very elaborate description of what the Antichrist is going to do. And clearly Daniel 7 is talking about the Antichrist. Daniel 9, the 70 weeks, is talking about the time with the Antichrist. Why is it outside the realm of possibility that Daniel 8 is referring to the same thing when Daniel 7 and Daniel 8 give almost identical description? But I got people telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. Daniel 8 does not refer to that time frame. Why would a chapter refer to a previous time frame, be in between 2 chapters talking about the same time frame? That doesn't make sense. God is not the author of confusion. That's not how prophecy works. Daniel received these in these visions in order. These visions describe the same thing in different details, talking about the same time frame in different details. And if you go to the book of Revelation and use the book of Revelation bounced off these 3 chapters, you see very clearly what's going to happen in stark detail. We're watching Daniel 8 happen right now. Here's my scenario on this. We're seeing what's going on. I showed you here this news article from Fox News, this video. And there's more to this. There's a lot more. I've shared other stuff on my community tab also. Here's what I'm seeing happen. Because what have we been watching for, especially since last year? The destruction of Damascus. To us, when we're watching prophecy, that's a key thing. They have to fly over Damascus to get to Iran from America. Most of Iran's troops are down there in Damascus and around it, and on the northern border at the Golan Heights, where the Bible says they're going to fight with Israel, is in the mountains of the north, Golan Heights. That's what that's it. That's why it's called heights. It's mountains. On their way in, they're going to have bombers bomb the northern border, Damascus, and they're going to fly into Iran and take out the governments. There's going to be a tactical aerial strike. That's the goat flying across the whole earth, not touching the ground. They're going to send probably 2, maybe 3 waves of bombers. One is going to go across Syria, and do damage there, and the other ones are going to go over to across Turkey to America. Probably going to, or not America, Iran. They're probably going to drop some stuff in Turkey too, because they have troops there. They know where their troops are. They got some over by Iraq too, which is right there also. So here's what I'm proposing, and here's what I'm seeing. With these prophecies, taking them all into account and all the other details, especially from the book of Revelation and from Jeremiah, by the way. Go look at Jeremiah and read what Jeremiah has to say about this. When you take all that into account, we could be looking in one move. Damascus destroyed, armies desolated, massive war, Iran taken out, a massive war kickoff, the Ezekiel 38 war, massive war kickoff and fighting there on the northern border in the Golan Heights, just like the Bible says, all at the same time in one move. They have submarines. That news article I shared from Fox News, they have submarines over there with Tomahawk missiles off the coast ready to attack Iran. It's airstrike. Guys, this is all coming to pass. We're seeing this. We're witnessing this. I really wish I could find someone else who sees this in Daniel 8. But when I read this and I listen to what other people say and I go and I look at the Bible, I can't see it because Daniel 7 and Daniel 8 are talking about the same thing, just different details. And all of them say this is for a time at the end. This is for a coming time frame, not now. We're witnessing it happen. Now, I could be wrong, but that would mean that a whole lot of the Bible is wrong. Not because I'm right, but because you're taking these descriptions that are given here when it literally says it's for a time of the end. You're taking those and you're trying to apply them to a time frame that wasn't at the end. Because if 2,000 or 2,500 years ago was the end, what's been happening for the last 2,500 years? Where's the millennial reign? Because that hasn't happened. Where's the white throne judgment? That hasn't happened. And all those things are supposed to take place. See, in order for preterism to be correct, you have to put these massive gaps of time between things where the Bible doesn't apply those. So now what we have to do is we have to go back and look at it and go, okay, what is it saying? And what is it referring to? And we compare the descriptions. And when the descriptions match, the only one conclusion you can come to. And that's that this, Daniel 8, is talking about right now. And that what we're seeing happen and about to happen. Look, it'll all make sense once we fire off an airstrike. And Trump will be the magic man. Trump, horn. Trump, horn. Hello, the Bible is literally telling us. We're going to become the most powerful nation. Everything's going to do fantastic. Everything's going to be great. Everything's going to go good. But then something's going to happen. They're probably going to take him out. Probably going to assassinate him. And I've actually been kind of wondering about that for a little bit now. That they're probably going to try to assassinate him. Name the last president that invokes the name of Jesus on camera. Name the last president that took the job without taking pay. Name the last president that carries a Bible with him everywhere he goes. Name the last president that was the most unorthodox president. Name the last president that won against all the odds. If you're over 40 years old, you probably can name one. If you're under, you can't name anybody. The reason why I'm harping on this so much is because we have a bunch of series of incidences that are happening that nobody can explain. And yet I'm reading them right here in the Bible. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. And I'm looking across the world and it's like, there it is. And what I'm trying to help people understand is how close we are. But I'm also trying to help them understand that you need to prepare your hearts for what's coming because things could get very bad here in this nation. Because I don't know when the rapture is going to be, but I do know the Lord said, prepare yourselves. Be ready. Persecution will get worse and worse. The love of many will go cold. I can tell you from experience. It's happening in my own family. I talk to almost no friends. And it's not because of me. It's because as soon as I tell them I have a ministry, they don't want to talk about it no more. They want their religion. They don't want the truth. And the truth is, we are standing on the cusp of the tribulation. And the Bible is telling us exactly what's going to happen. And it's like I'm reading a play-by-play when I'm reading the Bible and looking at the world today. Watch. If you see that airstrike happen, and all of a sudden everybody starts cheering and praising Trump for making the best decision in the world, and everything just suddenly starts getting better, go read Daniel 8, because it tells you what happens next. Because they're going to take out Damascus, they're going to take out Iran, and there's going to be a war. And that's going to be where Israel is going to fight. This is why we got to read the Bible. It's why we have to read the Bible. Read, read, read. And when you read, you see these things. Things people either won't talk about or don't understand. Now, do I understand it perfectly? Absolutely not. But I can look at a picture and read a description and tell whether they match or not. That's what I feel like I'm doing right now. So do your own research. Read this. Read Daniel 7, then read Daniel 8. Then read Daniel 9. Daniel 7 and Daniel 9 apply to the tribulation. Why doesn't Daniel 8? Why would that be the one oddball chapter in the entire book of 12 chapters? It isn't. That's the problem. It applies perfectly. And it speaks exactly about what we're seeing. And it tells us the time that we're in. Don't believe me, believe the Word. Go read it, go look, go trust, and go to my community tab and watch this 2-minute video. Because if you read Daniel 8 and then watch this video, you're like, wait a second, hello? Just saying. All right, love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.